As you said, a country needs a just cause to go to war against another country. Then what was the just cause of the Soviet Union to attack Afghanistan? You see, just causes are for weak countries. If you are super powerful, you don't need any just cause. You can bend the laws as per your whims and desires. Rules based world order, it's only for the weak. If I set the rules, I can always rewrite the rules and do whatever I want. I can go and flatten Iraq if I want. I can go and flatten some other country if I want. Yeah. So it's the just cause for war, it's only for weak countries. Now let's come to what we are discussing here: Soviet Union and Afghanistan. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, which happened in 1979 December, probably 25 December 1979, if I recall correctly. You can look up the exact date, which may differ perhaps, or maybe not, whatever. So what was the just cause for the Soviets, or the cause of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan? So, as always, we have to go back in history to understand the cause and effect chain, to understand what caused all of this. So, let's go to the 19th century. See, when I was for the first time asked about the history of the Ukraine war, why did this war happen? I went back to 1000 AD. So, I am doing you a favor. I'm only going to the 19th century here. 19th century, we had the Sikh Empire. The Sikh Empire, whose great ruler was Shri Ranjit Singh, Maharaj Ranjit Singh. And he liberated Kashmir from the Afghans. By the time the Afghans of Gandhar had converted fully to Islam, and they had conquered Kashmir, and they had done horrific atrocities to the people of Kashmir. So Maharaja Ranjit Singh liberated Kashmir from the Afghans, and he also grabbed significant Afghan territories as punishment, as a punitive measure. So that was the western and northern and western frontier of the Sikh Empire, which included significant Pashtun territories. Then the British defeated the Sikh Empire and took over the Sikh Empire. And eventually, when the British, who occupied India, when they finally decided to demarcate the India-Afghanistan boundary after the Anglo-Sikh wars, they decided to create this Durand line along along the borders of the Sikh Empire, which included a lot of Pashtun territory. Okay. In 1947, when the British left and divided India, partitioned India, that became the Pakistan-Afghanistan boundary. And that is the cause of a major territorial dispute that exists even today. Now, let's once again go back. In the 20th century, you had Mohammed Dawood Khan, I believe, who was the cousin of the ruler of Afghanistan. The ruler of Afghanistan, his name was Zahir Shah. And his cousin, Mohammed Dawood Khan, was appointed by Zahir Shah as the Prime Minister of Afghanistan. Now, Mohammed Dawood Shah had the choice. See, now, the 20th century, you have the Cold War, right? After the end of the Second World War. You have the Cold War, and Pakistan has allied itself with the Americans. And Pakistan and Afghanistan have this major territorial dispute. So this guy, Dawood Khan, he had the choice. He had to decide what to do. Do I also align like Pakistan with the Americans, or do I align myself and my country with the Soviets? So there was a tug of war. Both the Americans and Soviets were courting Afghanistan, but Mohammed Dawood Khan decided to go with the USSR. So the Soviets were very happy. They were very pleased that Afghanistan is on our side, and they gave Afghanistan all kinds of aid, all kinds of support. They sold lots of military equipment, tanks, fighter planes, artillery, small arms, ammunition, all that to Afghanistan. The Soviets also set up air bases in Afghanistan. Who constructed Bagram Air Base? It was the USSR who constructed the Bagram Air Base for the Afghans. They also used it. So all this happens in the 1950s. It's around the 1950s that this happens. So Afghanistan initially, Mohammed Dawood Khan initially was thinking about being on the American side, but the Americans insisted that you have to sign agreements with us. You to sign a mutual defense agreement, etc., which essentially vassalizes you. And Afghanistan did not want to be vassalized, so they went with the Soviets. India was also aligned with the Soviets. Afghanistan was also aligned with the Soviets. So the Americans now prod the Pakistanis, that create problems for Afghanistan, right? So the Pakistanis start using Islamist tactics in Afghanistan. See, the government of Afghanistan, the Mohammed Daoud Khan government, was a nationalistic government. And a nationalistic government will want its territory back. So Pakistan said, let's try and do a regime change in Afghanistan and put an Islamist government in place, so that it's all about religion, not about territory anymore. So that makes Pakistan and Afghanistan on the same page. So they tried to, prop up, they tried to foment troubles in Afghanistan, and there were clashes along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, low-level clashes and so on. So this continues in the 1950s, 60s. Eventually, what happens in the 1970s is that the Pakistanis are supporting these warlords, such as Burhanuddin Rabbani, Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, Ahmad Shah Massoud, etc. They are supporting these warlords and trying to create lots of trouble for Afghanistan. And then there is an attempt to do a coup in Afghanistan. At some point in time in the 1970s, Mohammed Daoud Khan ousted his uncle Zahir Shah as the Shah, as the king of Afghanistan, and he proclaimed Afghanistan as a republic. Okay, and then there is this trouble with Pakistan. The Pakistanis are trying to use Islamism as a tool against Afghanistan. Then there is an attempted coup in Afghanistan in the late 1970s, somewhere, probably 78 or something. And Mohammed Daoud Shah is able to suppress that. But then there are protests against him, and the Islamists become very powerful. And there is a lot of instability. And Mohammed Daoud Shah massacres some people. That sort of thing happens. And then the Soviets, they had also cultivated a communist party in Afghanistan, which was called the Afghanistan People's Democratic Party or something. And eventually there was a revolution in Afghanistan called the Saur Revolution, and you had a communist takeover of the country by this Afghanistan People's Democratic Party or whatever. Mohammed Daoud Shah is killed in that coup. And then there is infighting in 1978 or thereabouts between various factions in the Communist Party. And the Soviets, who are very happy with this communist takeover of Afghanistan, they are trying to patch things up. But the guy who is in power, whose name I forget, he said that I will not listen to the Soviet Union. If you guys try to pressurize me, I will go and get into bed with the Americans. Okay? So he started becoming pro-America. And that was the last straw for the USSR. So Leonid Brezhnev in 1975 said, invade. And that's how the invasion happened in 1979. So long story short, the Soviets wanted control over Afghanistan. They could not afford to have Afghanistan fall into Pakistani and American orbits. And that's why they invaded Afghanistan. But they don't do a good job of it, as we know. And eventually it was a catastrophe. So whether you can call it a just cause, unjust cause, whatever, but that is how it happened. That was a chain of events. Roughly, you can read the details with all the dates, etc. But that's overall how it happened.